Greetings viewers, Jordan GT Trainer here, attempting to do something a little different on this channel than what I've been doing with it so far. I'm going to try to actually review a movie. That's right, this will be my first official movie review video. If you've seen my previous videos on this channel, you may have noticed that I've only briefly explained why I like certain movies, without going into full details before showing tributes to them. Yeah, beforehand I haven't done a video where I fully discuss certain movies. Not counting the one about the Winnie Pooh horror films. Please check that out, by the way. But that's going to change now. And while I can't promise that I'll be like any of those known online reviewers, since explain things has never been one of my strong points, I'll do the best I can. And if this video gets enough views and feedback, I'll definitely make more videos like it in the future. Okay, I'm sure many of you are at least familiar with the French CGI cartoon Miraculous Tales of Ladybug Cat Noir, or just simply Miraculous for short. Since its official debut in 2015, the series has gained a big international following thanks to its unique premise and interesting characters. Admittedly, I had no interest in watching the show at the time because it didn't look like my cup of tea. But then in 2020, not long after the you-know-what had begun, I decided to binge watch the show on Netflix out of sheer boredom, and needless to say, I instantly got drawn to it. Really. I enjoy Miraculous for pretty much the same reason everyone else does. A premise that does a unique take on the superhero genre, interesting characters, both the good and the bad, a good English voice cast, a neat setting, a very catchy theme song, cool anime-influenced 3D animation, nice action sequences with villains getting defeated in creative ways, goofy humor, engaging storylines, and the relationship of main protagonist Marinette Dubrain Chang aka Ladybug, Adrian Gress aka Cat Noir. Some of those things I mentioned may be more what I enjoy about the show than what everyone else does, but you get the gist. Anyway, Miraculous is a show with a lot of good potential going for it, and for the first 2 seasons, things regarding the show seemed harmless enough. It had a basic formula where Ladybug and Cat Noir fight a villain created by main antagonist Hawkmoth, who was secretly Adrian's father Gabriel Agreste, while also dealing with people and certain things in their civilian lives, as well as occasionally learning more about the titular powers and the magical creatures that carry them, known as the Kwamis. There's also the romantic comedy, which is rather appropriate for a show that takes place in Paris, France, the titled City of Love. Since one of the show's recurring themes is that the 2 main heroes don't know each other's secret identities, it creates a crazy love triangle, with Marinette being in love with Adrian but not Cat Noir, Adrian being in love with Ladybug but not Marinette. The difference is that Marinette is too shy and clumsy to confess her feelings to Adrian, while Cat Noir has no problem openly flirting with Ladybug, much to her annoyance. They sound awkward, but they're usually fun to watch. So yeah, Miraculous had a lot of lighthearted enjoyment and goodness going for it with the first 2 seasons, even when Ladybug and Cat Noir started including more heroes into their group. Unfortunately, once Season 3 began, the show suddenly took a drastic drop in quality. Apparently they tried to make the show a little more serious from this point on, but for the most part they failed with that. I mean, I could tell the effort was there, but the execution was just bad. It was at this point that a lot of fans began to turn against the show by either leaving the fandom completely or relying more on fan works to satisfy their needs. And there are 2 problems with Seasons 3 to 5 I can think of that have caused a lot of fans' resentment toward the show. The first problem with Seasons 3 to 5 in Miraculous is the animation. It might not sound like too big of a deal, but animation fans like me like to look at nice visuals and designs for the medium. And one of the things that made the show amazing during the first 2 seasons was its smooth and mostly appealing animation style. However, said animation style suddenly got downgraded for most of Season 3 to 5, where it often looked cheaper, stiff, and unpolished. What do I mean by that exactly? I'll put it like this. The animation for Miraculous went from the 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to Zombies the Reanimated series. Yeah, I think that's a good enough way of putting it. But why did this happen? Well, from what I've heard, after Season 2 had finished production, each episode of the later seasons were animated by different studios because they apparently could no longer afford to stick with just 1 or 2. I honestly don't know whether to consider that sad or not. The second and biggest problem with Seasons 3 to 5 Miraculous is the writing. Now granted, the writing for the first 2 seasons wasn't that great, but they at least show plenty of competence. Same sadly could not be said for most of the writing of Seasons 3 to 5, with their numerous plot holes and inconsistencies to poor attempts at tackling serious issues such as toxic relationships and emotional abuse. But the worst thing about the later seasons' writing is how most of the major characters have been portrayed. Throughout these seasons, the characters who are supposed to be the good guys have frequently switched between being clever to being surprisingly dumb and often hypocritical depending on the episode's plot. There's also been character assassinations. During seasons 2 and 3, it seemed as though recurring antagonist Chloe Bourgeois was going through a redemption arc, where she started being slightly nicer to people and even got occasionally included into the heroes group as Queen Bee. But then the supposed arc was destroyed in the season 3 finale, and Chloe became nastier and more useless afterwards. If that weren't bad enough, around the second half of season 3, Adrian started getting sidelined a lot while his alter ego Cat Noir got treated more like a sidekick than a co-hero. And throughout season 4, he began showing signs of growing bitter and angry, which gave the impression that he would either turn against Ladybug or just give up being a superhero altogether. Sadly, apart from Adrian/Cat Noir eventually ending his feelings for Ladybug, this supposed story arc never really went anywhere and was pretty much forgotten. That was honestly a big missed opportunity to have some real drama in the show. Out of all the characters Miraculous to get ruined though, the one who seems to have gotten it the worst is Marinette. You see, during the first 2 seasons of the show, Marinette was a pretty good protagonist. She had plenty of charm and flaws where she would show herself to be a great superhero and team leader with a lot of determination, while also being a socially awkward but still likable klutz with a cute and harmless crush on Adrian. Marinette was even once considered to be a positive role model to young teenage girls. No really, look that up. Unfortunately, since the start of season 3, Marinette's character had been badly butchered. Most notably, her crush on Adrian grew to more of an obsession, and she developed a stalker-like behavior where she would try to follow him almost anywhere he went, and often look at his pictures and possessions in a creepy way. And when she wasn't doing anything regarding Adrian, Marinette would often display an unpleasant demeanor toward her friends and others around her and do some not-so-heroic things that realistically should get her into trouble. Yet she rarely receives consequences for her actions, and characters treat her as if she could do no wrong. There's also the fact that Marinette now often out-spotlights Adrian and others instead of giving them a real chance to shine. Because of all this, Marinette went from being one of the show's most popular characters to one of the show's hated characters. Someone even considered her to be the most hated character in the show now. Yeah, there are people who hate Marinette more than worse Miraculous characters, such as Gabriel, Bob Roth, Audrey Bourgeois, and Lyra Ross, or Cerise Bianca, or whatever the hell her name is. Bottom line is, what happened to Marinette just isn't right. Now, it might be because I'm an easygoing guy with low maintenance and or the fact that I didn't get into Miraculous until 2020, as well as its addicting concept, but despite being aware of the show's growing problems, I still like it overall. And unlike a lot of people I've noticed online, I managed to watch every episode and special of the first 5 seasons without losing my mind. I mean, I'll admit there are certain episodes I wouldn't watch again, but none of them were bad enough to drive me crazy nor make me resent the show overall. At worst, it just made me go, ugh. Plus, I've been capable of looking past the bad moments in seasons 3 to 5 and acknowledging more of their highlights, which I thought they had plenty of than what many people believe. And even though it took longer than expected to happen, I was mostly glad when Marinette and Adrian finally became an official couple during season 5, with their relationship shown to be rather decent and cute, in a dorkish way. The best part is that Marinette dropped her stalker-like behavior sometime in season 4. Or at least that's how I see it. For some reason, a lot of people believe Marinette's obsession with Adrian and stalker-like behavior have become her only character traits and act as though she has nothing else to her character, which isn't true in the slightest. If these people had really been paying attention, and I get the feeling they haven't, then they would have noticed that Marinette's notable bad quality had been significantly toned down since the start of season 4, as she had been more focused on being the new guardian of the Miraculous than anything else and actually tried to get over her feelings for Adrian. Twice, I might add. And even when those feelings returned, Marinette's behavior regarding him was much tamer compared to how it was for most of season 3. Yet these people act as though Marinette didn't change at all since her Flanderization in season 3 and has 0 good qualities now, which again is not even close to being true. I don't know if these people are somehow oblivious to the stuff I mentioned, or they purposely ignore him just to find excuses to trash on Marinette because it's a popular opinion. Or maybe they're somehow still stuck in the show's season 3 era and can't move on from there. Whatever the case is, I'm just going to come right out and say that I think Marinette's hate him is worse than Chloe's hate him, and no one can change my mind on that. Sorry, not sorry. Also, just to let you know, I'm neutral toward Chloe. I don't like her, her backstory, Queen Bee design, and some fanfics I've seen have prevented me from utterly hating her. You're welcome. So anyway, what exactly caused the show with so much good potential going for her to lose much of its quality? Well, the exact reason is uncertain, but from what I gathered, most of the blame for the quality drop is pinned on series creator Thomas Struct, who whom a lot of Miraculous fans have a grudge against for many reasons. Namely, his supposed favoritism over Marinette, strange dislike for Chloe, mediocre writing skills, disinteresting imperial plot or character development, inability to take criticism, and just being an overall dick to fans. There's a handful of YouTube videos and a whole Tumblr page explaining why much of the Miraculous fam hates the series' creator. Just look at Thomas's Struck rant, they're not hard to find. Moving on, after Season 3 of Miraculous had ended, an animated movie based off the series initially titled Ladybug Cat Noir Awakening was announced to be in the works. And after half a decade of near radio silence while in development, the Miraculous movie finally premiered on Netflix in late July 2023 under the new title Miraculous Ladybug and Cat Noir the Movie, though some still refer to it by its original title Ladybug and Cat Noir Awakening, probably because they find it catchier or something, I don't know. In any case, the movie is what I'm primarily here to talk about in this video, but before I officially get to that, I need to point out a couple of things. First off, for those who aren't aware, Thomas Struck had zero involvement with this movie, which is a good sign, and it is a reimagining of the show as a guest star created by Jeremy Zag, who is a producer and music composer of Miraculous, as well as the founder and CEO of Zag Tune, one of the show's main production companies. Unlike Thomas, Jeremy has experience in creating other shows, with some of his notable works including Zack Storm, Power Players, and the criminally underrated Ghost Force, which has a similar premise to Miraculous, but with slightly better quality. There's actually going to be a crossover special of these two shows in the future. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Anyway, Jeremy is basically the opposite of Thomas, as the former is much nicer to fans, can usually take criticism, has mostly better writing skills, and has a better understanding of how plot and character development works. In fact, one could wonder why Jeremy hasn't been the showrunner of Miraculous this whole time instead of Thomas, because the former clearly has more of the talent for that than the latter, and could have prevented a major uproar in the fandom from happening. Oh well, it is what it is. The second thing I need to point out is that I watched the Miraculous movie on Netflix a few days after its premiere and decided to make a review video about it. I initially wanted to get the video out between August and December of 2023, but life and circumstances beyond my control and admittedly a bit of procrastinating prevented me from getting enough time to work on the script and find the right time to do the recording. Yes, this video is scripted instead of mostly improvised, and if it gets enough views and feedback, I'll consider making more scripted videos in the future. That said, I'm sorry it took so long to get this video out, but it's here now, and I hope the wait was worth it. Okay, I think I wasted enough time talking about the Miraculous show and what likely has been going on behind the scenes, so now I'm going to talk about the movie. Just be mindful that everything I have to say about the Miraculous movie in this video is my opinion, and there will be spoilers for those who still haven't seen it yet. So if you're one of those people who have yet to see the Miraculous movie and don't like spoilers, I suggest you don't go past this point of the video. If you have seen the movie, then I will now begin my first official movie review video.